Hello, I'm Bonnie Jackson, and for those of you who have joined us in the past, welcome back. And for those of you who may be new to our series, these discussions are being brought to you by ARP's Community Education Program, also known as CEP. And the goal of our program is to present information to the community on the topics of Social Security, Medicare, Prepare to Care, Finances 50 Plus, and our current series on fraud. Today, our topic is part 2 of online identity theft. CEP is driven by a group of very dedicated volunteers, and we have several joining us today. And I'd like you to meet Joyce Springle, Gary Snyder. Gary's not with us today. Rob Foster, Steve Booth, Sandra Ang, Tanya Jackson, and our presenter today, Linda Vitale. So let's get started.
Well, welcome everybody. This is part 2 of identity theft online. So we want to talk about this topic because we feel AARP feels it's a very important topic to cover, because right now during the coronavirus pandemic, a lot of people are online even more than they ever have before, shopping and surfing and on social media and everything. So we're going to do phishing, the topic today, and phishing is something where criminals will try to phish for information, sensitive information, so that they can then steal from you or steal your identity. So 91% of all phishing emails begin with 91% of all cybercrime begins usually with a phishing email or some sort of phishing contact. With phishing, you can be contacted in various ways. You can be contacted on the phone, on social media, via a text message, online. And so you want to really be careful, because there's a lot of fraudsters and imposters out there who impersonate legitimate companies that are just trying to phish for information from you. And a lot of times, if it's a phone call, it's usually a robocall or a telemarketer. And there's a system that they use that is called spoofing. And what spoofing is they are able to alter the phone number on the caller ID that you see. So you might be thinking you're talking to Medicare or the IRS or your bank, and you're really not. So you have to be very careful not to believe what you see on your caller ID and not get spoofed that way. Usually what I tell people to do is, if they get a call that they don't recognize the number, let it go to voicemail. If you happen to pick it up and it's a recorded conversation, someone leaving you a recorded message, don't call back, don't click any numbers, just hang up on robocalls. Most of them are illegal anyway. Text messages, same thing. If they don't seem right, just delete them. You're not obligated to return the text. And when you're online, just be careful what you click on. And emails, again, are the most dangerous. You really must learn how to protect yourself and know what to look for in phishing emails. One of the biggest problems we have, especially with the older adult population, is Medicare imposters calling and offering all kinds of services, sometimes free, sometimes not. But the idea there is that you have to understand that Medicare will never call you. Medicare is too busy processing claims and working with their clients. They are not calling you on the phone to offer you services. So if you get a call from someone claiming to be from Medicare or Social Security or the IRS or your bank or your credit card company, more than likely it is a phishing situation. And so you really want to just be careful and not give out any personal information. If you're not sure whether it's legitimate, the best thing to do is go directly to the source rather than responding and giving personal information or, basically just calling them back and then giving them your information. So The other thing is you should never give away any unsolicited information. In other words, if it's a caller calling you like Microsoft claiming that there's a virus on your computer, you didn't solicitate, you didn't call Microsoft to complain about your computer. Someone called you. More than likely, when you get an unsolicited contact, it usually means it's a fraudster. And usually they want sensitive information or they want you to send money in some way. Usually phishing requires some kind of urgency or some kind of follow-up that you must do. And just know that most legitimate companies, including your bank and your credit card companies, will never ask you for sensitive personal information in an email, especially because emails are not private. So, or on the telephone. And if it, like I said, if it sounds legitimate, still don't give out that information. Just hang up the phone or delete that email and go directly to the source. Call up your bank or go on your bank's website and log in and see if what you're being told is legitimate. The last thing there on that slide I want to talk about is skimming. Skimming is a device that is being installed inside of the device that you use when you go to a gas station and you slide your card into the slot there so that you can get your gas. And you have to be careful because there are a lot of skimming devices hidden behind there. So if the device itself looks loose or sloppy or just doesn't look right, it's maybe askew or something, be careful and use another pump. And know that the skimming, what that does is when you put your credit card in there, there is someone in the background who is now reading the information that is on the strip in the back of your credit card, and now they have the ability to clone your credit card or your debit card. So the advice there is whenever you go to a gas station, rather than use your debit card, always use your credit card instead. Because with a credit card, you have recourse. You can, you only charge maybe $50 if there's a problem. With a debit card, you don't have the same consumer protection, and you could be responsible for a lot more money if your card gets compromised. So just take that advice that whenever you're using your credit card, where instead of using the chip, you are using the magnetic strip in the back of it, you want to always make sure you're using a credit card rather than the debit card. All right, so then I want to talk about the tips then. And some of the tips are, of course, we just talked about not clicking on links, especially in emails, because that's how you get viruses and malware. You don't want to get malware on your computer because what that does is the person who installed that malware on your computer now has access to your files. They have access to your keystrokes when you go online, and they then take control of your computer. So you want to be very careful never to click on links in emails or open attachments, especially if it looks strange or you don't recognize who's sending you that email or that text or who's on the other end of the phone. You never know if it's a stranger, so you always have to be cautious and verify things. So I always say go straight to the source. So say, for example, if PayPal sends you an email and says someone just made a purchase and we want to verify that purchase, and in order to verify that, you need to give us your password, be very careful. Instead, just delete that email or hang up that phone and then go on to your PayPal account directly online and then investigate further to see if it's legitimate or not. The next thing is, of course, the obvious thing, which we always say, we can't say it often enough, is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Strange messages you have to be aware of from friends, and that's even friends on social media. A lot of times somebody will get on your account and want to friend you, and you think they're a friend, and they're actually a duplicate of a friend. because that friend's account got compromised somehow. So always be careful, especially if a friend sends you a link or an article to click on in an email. You may want to verify first before you open it that they indeed sent it to you. Always look for strange addresses, bad language, misspellings, and if you hover your mouse usually over the person who sent it to you, you can see many times that the address that the email has come from is not a legitimate email address. It's a long set of numbers or just misconstrued where it's not really, doesn't make any sense. So those are the tips to look out for there. And the last thing on that slide I want to discuss is, you see it says HTTPS. Every website begins with HTTP, and sometimes there's an S after the HTTP. The S stands for secure, and what that means is that website is encrypted, so fraudsters won't be able to read if you're putting your username or your credit card or your password in there. So you want to always try, when you go on a website, to always go on the website that has the S there, especially when you're doing some sort of transaction, so that you know that you are on a secure site. And then a few other tips are to certainly, I think we talked about this in the first part of this, is to always monitor your accounts online. You have to really make sure that you are on top of your bills and your bank balances, because if there's identity theft, that's the first place you're going to know about it. So make sure that when your bills come and when you're going online, you look at your balances and make sure that there's nothing there that doesn't belong there. You should set alerts on those important accounts like your bank and your financial accounts, so that if someone logs on, you get an email so that you are aware that someone logged on. When I go on my bank, right away my bank fires off an email to me saying someone just signed into your bank. So I know that it's me. If I didn't sign on my bank, I know I got trouble to deal with. So be very careful and try to monitor those accounts carefully. You want to set up those unique passwords, make them long and strong, and make them unique, meaning don't use the same password in very important websites, like you wouldn't want your bank password and your credit card password and your Facebook password to be the same. They should all be different and long and strong. The other thing is control your surfing. Just watch where you go online. Don't go on strange looking websites. Don't click on things that you're not sure about, and just try to go on the websites that you know and that you trust. Always watch for those imposter websites. There have been millions, and I mean millions, of websites that are created that are imposter websites that are created with names, especially during the pandemic, that have the word coronavirus or COVID or pandemic in the website name, that are imposter websites. Also, there are imposter websites that have misspellings of common websites. So Amazon might have an extra M or an O or a Z in it. So be careful when you type your websites, and don't get what we call fat finger typing, where you misspelled it and now you find yourself on a copycat website that is not the legitimate site. And then, of course, as we talked about, always beware of phishing scams, and you have to just know the telltale signs of a phishing scam. And if you think there's an email that you got that doesn't seem right, always trust your gut and always just delete that. Don't give that information out, and just go to the source to find out and investigate further. Just always verify first. And that concludes our identity theft online presentation today. Hope you learned a lot, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lynn, for sharing all this vital information, because even though we think we know everything there is to know about scams and we think we're being very careful, we do need to be reminded, and often, so that we don't become complacent and we don't become a victim. So thanks to all of you for joining us today.